What we're gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
This is Butch Slaughter, and you're listening to the echoes of Indiana Avenue. Welcome to my neighborhood, the Avenue. I grew up here, and each week I'll be sharing the sounds and stories of the people that made the Avenue great. Welcome to the 2023 edition of our annual celebration of the Indianapolis Recorders Midnight Christmas Benefit Shows at the Walker Theater. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, the Midnight Christmas shows at the Walker Theater were an important part of the Indiana Avenue music scene. The concerts featured up to 60 acts on one stage and ran from midnight until 6 in the morning. Some of the greatest musicians in Naptown performed at the Christmas benefit concerts, including Wes Montgomery and Slide Hampton. Many young musicians had their first big break at the Walker Christmas shows, including Rodney Stepp, best known for his work with the Spinners.
I was 13 years old the first time I got to play at the Walker, and it was a Indianapolis Recorder Christmas show. And the Recorder, year after year, would always do this holiday Christmas show, and it didn't start till midnight, if you remember. It was always midnight, which was crazy, but for us, that was the coup de grace. That was like Taj Mahal, Radio City Music Hall for us, in here in Indy.
But the entertainment wasn't limited to just music. There were comedians, bodybuilders, burlesque dancers, and female impersonators. The concerts developed from the Indianapolis Recorder Cheer Fund. Established in 1929, the Indianapolis Recorder Cheer Fund was an annual holiday fundraiser that supported families in financial need. During the 1930s, the Recorder Cheer Fund evolved into a benefit concert. These concerts attracted top performers, including the legendary tap dancer Bill Bojangles Robinson, who performed at the Recorder's 1938 benefit show. For the next hour, we'll feature interviews with Indianapolis musicians who performed at the Walker Theater Christmas benefit shows, including Henry Hinch, Josephine Cheatham, Reggie Gammon, Debbie Nelson, Tyrone Caldwell, Richard Hamilton, and Joe Trotter. We'll also talk with Eunice Trotter, the former owner of the Indianapolis Recorder and organizer of the Midnight Christmas Show during the 1980s. And we'll hear from the legendary Naptown DJ Gino Shelton. He helped to organize and promote the Walker Christmas concerts during the 1980s. We'll begin with Henry Hinch. During the 1960s, Henry performed alongside Josephine Cheatham and a duo called the Sentimentals. In 2019, WFYI's Kyle Long spoke with Henry Hinch.
Henry, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
And last time we were here, Josephine Cheatham was here with us, who was your vocal partner in the group The Sentimentals, and we talked about your incredible history as a music act here in Indianapolis.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about specifically the Indianapolis Recorder Walker Theater Christmas benefit shows that happened in the 50s and 60s. And you and Josephine were a big part of these programs, right?
Yes, we were.
Can you remember when you first started attending or participating in these events?
Well, let me back up because she she was doing it before I. And what happened when we got together to sing together, then I came aboard. And it was just so remarkable and so exciting to see all these people that just coming to hear us sing. It was just like, hey, we made it, everything is good. And so she won that time, and then they had another one, then I won. But it was so much fun. That's back then in the day, it's not like it is now. Other singers would coach other people, pat on the back, say, man, good job, you did good. Like we wouldn't stuck up like some of these big stars are. We wasn't that way. So we always kind of, hey, you got it. Don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. And so that's how it was. We helped each other, whether they sound good or they did not. And we would always tell them, you did a great job. So that was good. But it was such an exciting time. There was so many people. And seeing the smiles on everybody's face, knowing it's Christmas time and there's supposed to be love, peace, and harmony, that's what it was.
Yeah, I heard someone compare the kind of atmosphere of the event to Showtime at the Apollo. It was kind of a talent show competition. There's a little bit of competition, friendly competition.
If they didn't like you, they didn't like you.
Yeah.
Because they didn't clap for you. So you knew you did something that was not pleasing to the ear.
Yeah. You grew up in Lockfield. You were just down the road from the Walker Theater on the Avenue. Mm-hmm. When did you start attending these Christmas benefit shows?
Let's see. I knew it was when Martha Reeves and Vandellas, because I did one of their songs, Love, Love, Made a Fool Out of Me, Foolish Love, something like that. And so after that, it started coming every year. They were wanting to hear us again, so we kept going and kept going. As long as they asked us to come back, we kept going, and that's how it started. When I first did that song, Love Does Foolish Things, that's it. And I remember doing that song, I won. So I was really excited about that and happy.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting to me about this event is that it wasn't a typical concert from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. This started at midnight and would go all the way till 6 a.m., right?
Man, yes, it went on and on and on, and we didn't care because after we got to sing, we went to breakfast and things like that. We had a great time. It was just so much fun, It's not like the entertainers today, the local entertainers, they just, I don't know what's... They just don't do like we did. So other than that, it was all about just having a good time, Even if we didn't get paid, we didn't care. We were just out there having a good time, wanted people to hear us sing and everything, and they're giving us claps. Boy, that's worth $1 million when they cheering you to come back. Of course, we couldn't come back because they had so many other entertainers there, so we had to respect the time and everything. But such a best feeling in the world, I'm telling you. We felt like we just big stars, But we were big local stars. We got so many local stars, so much local talent here in Indianapolis. Wow, this could be another Motown. It really could.
Were you a teenager at this time when you started participating?
I was a teenager.
What did your parents think about you hanging out all night at the Walker Theater singing? Were they supportive of this, or were they...
My mom, to get me out of the house, she was happy, No, I had a good mom. It's just, boy, are you thinking about singing? I said, Mama, you told me I couldn't sing. And that kind of hurt my feeling. She said, well, you got to prove to me that you can sing. I said, come to church. Come to church. And they gave me a song to sing. And Mama, I'm going to make you a believer. I'm going to let you know that I can sing. So she came. I did my song. And then she said, all right, son, you can sing.
And one thing I think is interesting about these Walker Christmas shows is it brought a lot of people together, and it gave opportunity for a lot of young musicians who are really early in their career. And this is kind of where you guys came together as a singing duo. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me about what that meant to you to have that opportunity to sing to this large audience in this theater as a young performer. That must have been really encouraging and inspiring for you to continue in your craft.
I was so scared and everything, but I tell you, like I said, me and Joe, we always have a prayer before we go out to perform. We put our hands together and we bow our heads and close our eyes, and we have a prayer and say, Lord, it's your will. Let it be done. Let us do a great performance. not for no show, fashion, or just let us do a good job. And that's what we did all the time. We just prayed each and every performance that we do before we go out on stage. We say a prayer, and that's what's got us through.
Yeah. And you got involved with these Walker Christmas shows in the 1960s when you were a young man growing up on the Avenue. As the Avenue went into decline, so too did the Walker Theater.
Yes.
And they discontinued these performances for a brief period of time, I think in the late 70s, early 80s. But around 1988, they brought it back. The Walker Christmas shows.
WTOC.
And
Geno Shelton.
Yeah, there was a lot of promotion behind this. They brought in a lot of younger entertainers, hip-hop artists, R&B artists. But you and Josephine were such an essential part of these Christmas shows at the Walker that you were kind of the headline acts on this Walker Christmas show revival in 1988, right?
Man, that made us feel so great.
Yeah.
Us feel good. We didn't get, like we were cute or nothing. Of course, we were cute, But it was just a great experience, yeah. When it was just something that we could always dream and remember for the rest of our life. It's just something you can just so precious. And when you're feeling down, like you want to go back and look at the paper or whatever, and say, wow, we sure had a lot of fun. Thanks to the Walker Theater Christmas Benefit Show. And it was a thing that was for sick kids, very ill kids. That's where the money all went. We felt really good to know that we're playing a small part in this affair, and it was meaningful and was good.
How do you feel about the legacy of this event, and is it something you would like to see come back? Is the Walker's in renovation now, and they're looking forward to doing some programming there in the future? Is this something you'd like to see come back?
Man, we will love it. Please come back. We want to come back to the Christmas Benefit Show at the Walker Theater. Please come back. Please.
Well, I think that says it all. And Henry, any memories of what the Avenue was like at Christmas time? Do you have any memories of the kind of atmosphere in the neighborhood?
It was just something like New Orleans. When they have their little Mardi Gras and everything, that's how it was. Everybody was happy. Everybody was just singing, and just the environment was just so peaceful, and everybody was coming together as one to have a Merry Christmas, to enjoy the singing, to give a person that's got a bowed down head to lift their head up. Give them a little Christmas spirit will make you feel good. And that's what it was all about to us. If we could reach somebody that was having problems in their lives, as far as like, I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent this month. If we could just boost them up and let them know that, hey, it's going to be okay. You got to believe it's going to be okay. That's kind of atmosphere it was, that we know that we're playing a small part to something that's going to be really big to who's ever there listening to all the entertainers. And our job has been done, so it's just all about having a good time. But the atmosphere was just, everybody's happy. Everybody's happy.
Any Christmas message you want to share with the people listening?
Silent night, holy night, all is come, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Merry Christmas to everybody, and have a happy new year. Thank you, Cal.
This is Butch Slaughter, and you're listening to the echoes of Indiana Avenue. On this week's show, we're looking back at the annual Indianapolis Recorder midnight Christmas shows at the Walker Theater, an important holiday tradition in Indianapolis during the 1950s and 60s. We just heard WFYI's Kyle Long speaking with Henry Hinch of the Sentimentals. Up next, we'll listen to an excerpt of Kyle Long's recent conversation with Josephine Cheatham.
But back, you was asking me about Indiana Avenue, in particularly the Madam Walker Theater, when we had the Christmas benefit show every year.
Right, you were a star at the Walker Theater, and the talent shows and things they did, you were one of the star attractions, right?
I was as I got a little bit older, but I performed on stage there probably from the age of 8 all the way up until my late 30s, early 40s, when they last had one. Mm-hmm.
And you brought up the midnight benefit Christmas concerts at the Walker, and I did want to ask you more in detail about these concerts. They were fundraisers for families in need. They'd happen around Christmas time, and it would start, 11 or 12 o'clock at night, run until 6 in the morning or later, and it would feature not only young entertainers like yourself, but also some of the veteran stars of Indiana Avenue. And if you look back through the years, I believe these started in the 1940s. You know, people like Wes Montgomery and Thurston Harris, who had a top 10 hit record, played at these midnight benefit Christmas concerts. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved in these and the atmosphere and any memories you'd like to share.
I think it was Mr. Edwards that really got me involved in that. He was big on pushing me to do different things. And when I went, we did have to audition. Even back then, we had to audition, and I can't remember. I think I sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow or something like that. And they said, yep, we want this one in here. She's going to be our youngest one, but we want her in there. And so that was the beginning of a yearly thing for me.
Dozens of performers would participate in these events, right? Musicians, dancers.
Everybody.
All sorts of entertainers.
All sorts of entertainers right from here in Indianapolis. Indianapolis was a mecca of awesome entertainment. Awesome entertainment here. All kinds, like you said, all genres. And the benefit show was where they just strutted their stuff. And it was a packed house every year. What did that mean to you as someone 9, 10, 11? I don't know how old you were, to be able to perform in front of this full theater of music fans. And what was that experience? What did that mean to you? Well, at first, I think it was just, I couldn't believe it. The first time I heard the applause, I mean, so thunderous applaud, the whistles and all this. And I was like, they doing that for me? You know? And when I would come back and do it again, and they do it again. And it felt good. It felt welcoming. I felt like they loved me. They wanted to hear me sing. And so kind of the audience bit me and my music bit me. So it just kind of went hand in hand.
And would you hang out there all night and watch the acts?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course I would. I couldn't miss it you couldn't go to sleep. Every act was phenomenal. So you didn't want to miss anything.
Do any memories stand out in your mind looking back at these Christmas benefit shows?
There was a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name was Baby Leon.
Of course, from the Presidents. And, the great Baby Leon.
All right, is everybody ready? Yeah! I want you to get in line. Have you heard about the Boogaloo and the Grapevine? But you haven't did one thing, baby, about the shoe shine.
Baby Leon was just awesome. He was the personified performer. He could hit the high notes and the low notes, and he could do the splits, and he would twirl, and I mean, he was awesome. He sticks out to me. And Lottie the Body.
Right, the famous burlesque dancer, right?
Lottie the Body sticks out to me because that was the first burlesque dancer that I had ever seen. And she did things with her body that I don't know how in the world she could do it, but it was in good taste. Even though it was burlesque, it was in good taste, and I liked it.
Another type of entertainment that was featured all over the Avenue, and specifically at the Christmas benefit shows, were the female impersonators. What did you make of that? Do you remember some of the female impersonators that used to entertain?
I'm trying to remember, but there were lots. There were lots, and they were beautiful, and they were entertainers. They were truly entertainers. And back then, I knew that they were men, but they were pretty men because they was dressed up as women. And I didn't know what a female impersonator was. This was an entertainer as far as I was concerned. So, but they were awesome. I wish I could remember some of the names, Kyle. You probably know some.
Like Candy Laverne? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Tanya Dupree was her name.
Tanya Dupree.
The snake dancer.
The snake dancer. Yes. Oh, that was awesome. She'd be on stage doing that thing with the snake. And I would always be kind of scared that the snake was going to get off and, and slither into the audience.
One thing that interests me about this is these are people who might not have been accepted in other facets of society at that time, yet they were able to find a place within this entertainment culture. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they were accepted on the Avenue and in this circle of entertainers?
Everybody that was an entertainer was accepted on the Avenue. I mean, we saw people just as people. I knew that they were different, but they were beauticians. They were musicians. You saw them in restaurants. They were just people, and they were accepted for who they were.
Do you think that the segregation and the discrimination that the black community of Indiana Avenue had faced in their lives kind of played a role in them being more empathetic to these entertainers?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so because we were a community of people. It was our community. And that community stuck up for each other. And we cared for each other. So, yeah, it was different. Segregation on that part was good for the black community because it brought us a tighter knit.
Echoes of Indiana Avenue will return after this short break.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Visit Bloomington. With over 350 restaurants to choose from, Bloomington, Indiana is truly a food lover's paradise. Go to visitbloomington.com to discover what suits your taste.
This is Butch Slaughter, and you're listening to the Echoes of Indiana Avenue. On this week's show, we're looking back at the Indianapolis Recorder's midnight Christmas shows at the Walker, an important Indiana Avenue tradition during the 1950s and 60s. Up next, we'll hear from Eunice Trotter, a veteran Indianapolis journalist and the former owner of the Indianapolis Recorder. Eunice performed at the Walker Christmas concert as a teenager during the 1960s, performing with the group Sam and the Soulettes. And during the 1980s, Eunice was one of the organizers behind the concerts. WFYI's Kyle Long spoke to Eunice earlier this year. Eunice remembered the soul singer Baby Leon being the star of the Christmas concerts.
Baby Leon, I remember he was in all the local clubs, and he was an entertainer. And so much like the King James Version kind of entertainment, just didn't sing. He was all over the place like a James Brown. And, I remember him, though, more so working with some of my own family, like Buzzard. He worked with them, highlighters, and I just remember, and I didn't really ever know the personal side of a lot of these folks. I would see their entertainment side. But Baby Leon performed at one of the 2 or 3 Recorder Midnight shows that I brought back. And it was a lot of local talent that we had at that show. The Recorder Midnight show, for listeners who may not know about that show, started at midnight at the Walker Theater and went all night. And so people would BYOB, and they would just have a great time. And that used to be a regular entertainment staple here in Indianapolis through the 40s and 50s, and even into the 60s. And then it ended. And then when I got control of the Recorder, I brought that back because I thought that was such an important way to highlight our local talent. So, we had just a slew of local talent that would perform all night, steppers and, comedians and, vocalists and groups and dancers. It was just a good time just to show people who we were and the kind of talent that we had here right in Indianapolis.
I'm very glad you brought that up because I did want to ask you specifically about this. I do a show every year around Christmas time looking back at the midnight shows because they were typically held in December and were held as a fundraiser for families in need.
That's right.
It was a charitable event. It started in, I think, the 1940s, as you mentioned, and was a tradition that kind of went on sporadically until your time at the Recorder, and I think after you left, it sort of sadly kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, they didn't do it again.
Yeah, which is a shame.
It was a lot of work.
And they should bring it back.
Yeah, definitely should bring it back.
Everybody wants them to bring it back.
Yeah, yeah. You hear that, Recorder? Bring back the midnight show.
And, you've experienced this from different angles because Sam and the Soulettes performed as an act in 1969 at the Christmas benefit concert. Do you remember being there as a performer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, where do you get all this information? Oh, boy, we're going to put you to work with the FBI. My goodness.
What do you remember about, because you're a teenager, you're up all
Scared
night
to
playing.
death.
Yeah.
I'm just scared to death. Because that venue there, it's a huge...
Walker Theater.
Yeah, it's a huge venue. You're on the stage. People are looking at you, although you can't see them looking at you when you're on the stage. So, but we did it, and we pulled it off, and we got our applause, and we went backstage. I just remember us just laughing and being, having this kind of high elation, of having been able to, do our thing. And, you just think, though, you're a teenager. See, 1916, I was born in 53. I would have been 16 years old in 1969. And, that would have been a big thing. That would have been a big thing for me.
And a couple people have mentioned to me that the atmosphere was like Showtime at the Apollo. Because if they didn't like you, you were going to hear about it.
Oh, you would.
Yeah, you got booed off stage.
Yeah, we didn't get booed. So that's what was really another.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
People, you would get booed. Even during the midnight shows that we did. There was some of that on the edge of that. But most of the entertainment that we had, we would handpick versus, having people come up and audition and all that. We would just pick out who we wanted to. So we tried to make sure we had good talent during those shows when I was there. But past midnight shows, the hook would come out.
Right. And this started at midnight, as you said, and would go on to what, 5, 6 in the morning?
Yeah. Sometimes daybreak. Depends on how many acts. And I think for us, it was in the winter, and it would go till at least 4 or 5 in the morning. But 5, 6 was not unusual.
And you mentioned that this was a showcase primarily for local talent, right?
Yes.
And entertainers like Wes Montgomery performed at this event. The big celebrity musicians of Indianapolis would perform there, as well as newcomers and teenagers like yourself.
Yes.
One thing that interests me about this as well, and I had a couple questions for you on this topic, is that this wasn't only dancers and singers. there were all sorts of acts, and that included female impersonators, which were a big part of the Avenue culture. And do you remember seeing some of those artists performing at that time? And what did you make of that?
Yeah, I used to go to a place, I can't remember,
The famous
I think it was
door. And Betty Kay's social club. Yeah, I want to ask you about this.
Yeah. I had a lot of gay friends or, drag queen friends because of our neighborhood and because of writing for the Recorder. So I would go there and do reviews of their shows, too. And I would do honest, reviews of their acts. And so they had a lot of appreciation for the kind of reviews that I would try to give them. I had a lot of interactions with them away from that scene and got to know them as people. Matter of fact, one, John, who's now deceased, his name was John Taylor, called himself Jackie. He's taught me how to put on makeup. And so when we would get ready to do shows, he would do our makeup. He'd put on the eyelashes and the wigs and all that stuff, the powders and all that, because we didn't know what we were doing with that stuff, but he did. And so, yeah, we had a great relationship.
That was Eunice Trotter sharing her memories of the midnight Christmas concerts at the Walker Theater. Up next, we'll hear from the legendary Naptown DJ Gino Shelton. He helped to organize and promote the Walker Christmas concerts during the 1980s.
You mentioned the Walker Theater, and I did want to ask you a few questions about
Sure.
the Walker Theater.
Sure.
You had a pretty significant association with them at a time. Every year around Christmas, too, I do a program looking back at the history of the midnight Christmas concerts at the Walker Theater.
Wow, yeah.
And, I go all the way back to the roots of this celebration, and which I think started in the 1940s. It has a long history. You were part of what is to this day the final Christmas concerts at the Walker.
Right.
I believe in 88 and 89.
Right.
You coordinated all the talent, promoted the event. Tell me about your involvement with these concerts. I know you're working with Eunice Trotter at the Recorder because this event had been historically sponsored by the Recorder. Tell me about your involvement in this and kind of your association with the celebration.
That event is funny that you mentioned that event because I remember it, but I don't. It is funny because all I remember was that, they wanted to do something similar to the Apollo. And all I remember was all of these acts through the years that they already had that used to come every year to perform. And I basically, the talent that I had as far as from what little promotion that I was doing, I used that in incorporation with what the Walker already had to create a show. And for some reason, even though I don't remember details about how I did or what I did, I just have a fond memory of it because it was one of those things where you did it and people talked about it. You didn't think about it, but afterwards people went, man, I saw you at the midnight, blah, blah, blah. And it was really weird because, I've done some pretty big events up until that point. But that particular event, for some reason, it really resonated with a lot of people because it was family. So a little bit of everybody went. And I didn't really understand the tradition of that event. But it was a really, really cool event. And I just kept thinking that, we're gonna make this the Apollo at the Walker. We're gonna make this the Apollo of the Mid, which is kind of like the theme now at the new Walker, the Madam Walker Legacy Center. That's kind of our running joke / theme is that we're going to become the Apollo of the Midwest. That's going to be, even though they're way more than an entertainment facility, they're about a lot more as far as educational and giving back to the community. But my angle in it is that I'm going to turn the theater into the Apollo of the Midwest. So yeah, that was a great event. And there's been several times that I've been approached about bringing it back.
You got to.
Several times people have asked me, man, just one more time, just try to do it. And I thought about that because Guy Black used to do a talent show, who was another cohort of mine that worked at TLC. He had a great talent show that he used to do that for years. And I told him, man, you need to come back and let's do one together. So, you never know. Just the concept of a midnight show like that, and it came, midnight. But, hey, it worked.
That was Gino Shelton sharing his memories of the midnight Christmas concerts at the Walker Theater. So many Naptown performers can trace their roots back to the Walker Christmas concerts, including the late Joe Trotter, best known for his work with the funk band Amnesty. During a 2019 interview with Kyle Long, Joe recalled performing at the Walker Christmas concerts with the Embers.
Did any of you ever play or attend the midnight Christmas shows they used to do back at the Walker? I know you guys weren't living on the avenue.
The Embers did.
No, I didn't.
The Embers played at the midnight Christmas show?
Yeah, the Embers did.
You have any memory of that?
It's just coming back to me now.
Yeah.
But we did at the Walker.
Yeah. They used to go from midnight till 6 a.m., right?
Yeah,
It was an
in the
all-night
morning.
show? Yeah. Do you have any memory of playing over there, what that experience was like?
We only done it one time.
Yeah.
But that was when we was first starting. We was surprised. We kicked butt on stage.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know too much about us then.
Yeah.
All I can say is that it got me hooked.
Yeah. Was that the first time you played at the Walker?
Yes.
At the time, the theater was kind of deteriorating in the mid '60s. Was it a kind of an honor to play at the Walker Theater? Or was it? How did you feel about it? Yeah.
Here we are, this little group playing at the Walker in front of all the people, all the brothers and sisters, and getting a response from them.
Reggie Gammon started singing at the Walker Christmas concerts during the 1950s. Reggie is a founding member of Al Hobbs and the Music Masters, a legendary Indianapolis gospel group. But during the 1950s, he was singing rock and roll with the Six Thrills.
Now, earlier then, we were in rock and roll groups in school.
Yeah. What were some of the groups you were in?
Yeah. Well, I was in the Six Thrills.
The Six Thrills.
And Paul was in the Titanics.
Titanics, okay. And you were singing doo-wop or R&B or rock and roll?
Well, whatever it was. Yeah. Every year at the Walker Theater, they'd have, every Christmas, they would have a benefit program. I don't know if you knew.
I've been I want to ask you about this. It was for the recorder and Walker would do big Christmas, and they have music all night long.
Yeah.
And you performed at these?
Oh, I was there every year.
With the Six Thrills?
Six Thrills, man. And we were the best with the Titanics. Well, they would win one year and Titanics will win another year and everything. And well, we was on all of that stuff. And we used to sing that, boy, the girls be screaming. Yeah, those were the days, man.
In 1970, Reggie Gammon recorded a Christmas album with the Music Masters titled Joy to the World. We'll hear the title track from that album now. This is Butch Slaughter, and you're listening to the echoes of Indiana Avenue. That was Al Hobbs and the Music Masters with Joy to the World. On this week's show, we're looking back at the Indianapolis Recorder's Midnight Christmas Benefit Concerts at the Walker. Up next, we'll hear from 3 Indianapolis musicians who performed at the Christmas Benefit Concerts during the 1960s. Debbie Nelson of the In Full Transition Band, Richard Mitchell of the Hamilton Movement, and Tyrone Caldwell of both the Hamilton Movement and In Full Transition. They spoke with WFYI's Kyle Long in 2018.
One thing about the Walker I wanted to ask you and everyone else, did any of you participate in the Walker Christmas shows with the recorder?
Oh, Jesus, you would be there all night long.
You'd have to be there by
to get a
12
turn.
o'clock and wouldn't even get on sometime to 5 or 6 in the morning.
Really? Yeah.
Just waiting and waiting.
Yeah.
Oh, but once you got on stage.
I think since
Midnight Special.
I think Keenan got on that night.
Uh-huh. Yep,
Sensation?
yep.
They
The
was up
Sensation,
there.
yeah. Yes. But, the wait was so long, but it was fun. The audience, they stayed. I don't care how long it took. They stayed. And when you came out there now, that was like, that was that club in New York where they take that cane and pull you
Apollo.
Apollo.
Yeah, it was like the Apollo. It was like live at the Apollo. Don't get over there and mess up. Because they had no problem with booing you. None at all. So, but it was fun. And you look out there, it was packed from the front row all the way to the back to the upstairs. Packed. As late as it was, they stayed. They'd get there around 10:30, 11 to get a good seat, and they stayed until it was over.
It would start at midnight and then go all until the morning. Yeah. How many times did you perform at the Walker Christmas
performed
show?
3 times
Yeah.
there.
Do you remember what you sang? Is it too distant of a
It
memory
was
now?
either something by Aretha or by Gladys. Those were my 2 favorites.
Tyrone, who did you play with at
Baby
the...
Leon.
Okay.
We was behind Baby
Yeah.
Leon, Ricky myself.
Yeah. What do you remember about those Christmas shows?
Well, there was so many good groups on before us, like the Vanguards, and let's say the Sensations, and
Yeah, that's right.
it was, when you got up there, you had to really be on your.
Don't let them boo me.
Yeah, James Bell, and then you
Yes.
had, Walter Webb.
Yes.
And then you.
I remember all of them.
It was so many groups back then.
Yes, it was.
Iron Jaw, Memphis.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Did you see him?
Oh, he performed.
I played behind him.
Yeah.
He performed at Surfside 7 when I was
Roosevelt
there.
Matthews.
I would sing, and then they had this voluptuous
Yeah.
dancer.
Tap dance.
She was beautiful. She was just as nice looking. She was beautiful as a woman.
Tanya Dupree?
No.
Candy Laverne.
Candy Laverne, and handsome as a
Her.
man.
Yes, she was.
Beautiful as a woman
She was.
and handsome as a man. I saw her in a suit, hair, everything. I didn't even recognize her. She was on her way to a funeral. But then I've seen her turn it out if she had to in there because the man didn't do what he was supposed to do. Pull that seat out for me. You know better. Sure. But I loved her. And Iron Jaw.
You described to me,
tables.
his act.
He would come out on his skates. He would skate around the club. And then he would see a lady and take her up. And he would ask her to sit on the table. She would sit on the table. He would bend over, still in these skates, and pick the table up with the lady sitting on it.
With his teeth.
I said, I was young then. This man can chop my head off if I ever made him mad with one bite. I mean, you can pick up a table that was 2 to 3 inches thick and skate around with a woman sitting on it. He really was Iron Jaw. He really was.
Yeah, you could skate.
Yes, and could skate very well, tremendously well.
Did you ever perform with Tanya Dupree?
The name is familiar.
With snakes.
Oh, yes. I've been to her apartment.
Oh, really?
She put the snakes around me. I was trying to remember whose house did I go to that had snakes. That's who it was.
What do you remember about her act?
I couldn't believe it, how she would put those snakes on her. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of them or anything, but a lot of people's like, no, she would come near them and like, don't do that.
And I wanted to ask each of you, in the 1970s, the Avenue went into decline. IUPUI started buying up properties. The highway expansion had already made an impact on the neighborhood. A lot of that history was just erased so carelessly and thoughtlessly. How did you feel at the time seeing that happen? And how do you feel now looking back at what happened and kind of the erasure of all that culture and history? Tyrone?
Well, the road was dirt. And, we was on the old buses, and it was just fun then. But now, to me, it's boring. I can't help to say it. It's boring down there now, man. There's nothing going on. I mean, other than Walker Theater. I mean, everything else is just kind of, it's too commercial, I guess. That's what I want to say. Back in the day, we had somewhere to go and enjoy ourselves. Just like Beale Street in Memphis. That was the avenue to us, Beale Street. Kind of miss it.
Richard, what thoughts do you have on the kind of destruction of the avenue and how it's...
Basically, it's, I think it's more or less black heritage, That was our culture. Up through there, we didn't have really that many places to go, but that was our culture. You can get anything from a kiss to a killing up through there, but it was our culture, and you can't stop progress, I guess, it's empty, to me, but that's all I can say on it.
Debbie, what thoughts do you have on that?
Sad thoughts to see where I began just destroyed, like as if it meant nothing, just wiped out, as if you never existed, just torn up, as if we never lived a life there that needed to be kept. It needed to be recognized by everybody of the gifts that we brought forth. Our livelihood, our joy, our ability to function in a manner that only we knew was just wiped out for progress. And the memories they can never take that away, those memories. But I just wish they had left it. And I agree with Tyrone. They need this since you took it. Why don't you put a few clubs along the way here and there? Start pulling the people back. Have some fun. It's just so stripped and commercial. It's just like he said, it's just dry. It's like, I think of in the Bible, the dry bones. It's nice and it's doing a great job and it's housing all these people and that's good. But where is the soul of it? There's no soul to it. It's just buildings and people who mainly have no idea of what was there before them.
That was Debbie Nelson, Richard Mitchell, and Tyrone Caldwell discussing their memories of performing at the midnight Christmas shows at the Walker. We'll end this week's show with one more track from the Music Masters. This is We Three Kings. Thanks for joining us for this look back at the Indianapolis Recorder's Midnight Christmas Concerts at the Walker. You can meet me here on the Avenue again next week, same time, same place. And you can find the Echoes of Indiana Avenue podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you download your podcasts. Echoes of Indiana Avenue is written and produced by Kyle Long and hosted and co-produced by me, Herman Butch Slaughter.
Nobody knows on Naptown, baby, like I do. Nobody knows on Naptown, baby, like I do. If you will stop and listen, I will tell you a thing or two. When you get lonesome and want to have some fun. falling, they fall like drops of rain. The blues come falling, they fall like drops of rain. I got to spend my Christmas locked up in jail again. In jail on Christmas Day again. Ain't that a pain?
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Visit Bloomington. With over 350 restaurants to choose from, Bloomington, Indiana is truly a food lover's paradise. Go to visitbloomington.com to discover what suits your taste.